July 13th, 2023. It was a warm, muggy Thursday evening on Interstate 459, just outside Hoover, Alabama. The steady hum of rush hour traffic was beginning to thin, replaced by the more relaxed rhythm of drivers heading home or out for the evening. In this quiet, unassuming suburb, life flowed with predictable calm. And then there was Carlee Russell. At 25, she was a nursing student, seemingly living a normal, unremarkable life. No one could have predicted that in a matter of minutes, she would ignite a firestorm of fear, sympathy, and ultimately controversy that would grip an entire nation. Around 9:34 p.m., Carlee made a 911 call, her voice reportedly tinged with concern. She told the dispatcher she'd spotted a toddler, a little boy, wandering alone on the side of the highway, no adult in sight. It was the kind of detail that twists a gut, stirring that innate human instinct to help a helpless child. Carlee explained she was pulling over to assist, a seemingly innocent, even heroic act. What happened next became the stuff of national headlines. Just moments after hanging up with 911, Carlee made another call, this time to her brother's girlfriend. She was still describing the perplexing scene, the small child, vulnerable and alone, and suddenly, the phone went silent. Her brother's girlfriend later recounted hearing a scream, followed by nothing but dead air. A chilling, terrifying silence. Carlee's family, alerted to the terrifying events unfolding, immediately called 911 again, frantic and desperate. When Hoover police officers raced to the scene, they found Carlee's silver Mercedes parked by the highway, its engine still running, the hazard lights flashing. Inside the car, they found her cell phone, her wig, and her Apple Watch. But there was no Carlee, and crucially, no toddler. It was as if she had simply vanished into thin air, leaving behind only perplexing questions and a profound sense of dread. The story, a young woman disappearing after stopping to help a child, immediately went viral. News outlets across the country picked it up. Social media exploded with the hashtag #FindCarlee, spreading her photo and the harrowing details of her last known moments. The public was horrified, terrified that a child abductor was now preying on good Samaritans. Fear, raw and visceral, swept through communities, especially those with young children. Law enforcement launched a massive, desperate search operation. Multiple agencies, including the Hoover Police Department and the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency, converged on the area. Volunteers, fueled by a mixture of empathy and outrage, joined the search effort, handing out flyers, scouring wooded areas, and praying for Carlee's safe return. The community was galvanized, united by the seemingly clear-cut case of a brave woman tragically abducted. But what they didn't know was that the truth was far more complex and far more unsettling than anyone could have imagined. As news of Carlee Russell's disappearance spread, it quickly transcended local headlines, exploding across national media. Every major news channel ran continuous updates, her photo appearing on screens across America. Carlee's distraught family appeared on national television, their voices choked with emotion, pleading directly to the public for any information, for her safe return. This wasn't just a local missing persons case anymore. It had rapidly escalated into a major national event, drawing unsettling comparisons to other high-profile abductions that had gripped the country. The public's response was immediate and overwhelming. Candlelight vigils were held in Hoover, Alabama, and in communities far beyond, all united by a shared sense of fear and desperate hope. Prayers and messages of solidarity flooded social media platforms. The idea that a young woman, simply trying to do a good deed for a lost child, could vanish without a trace ignited a collective fury and a pervasive dread that a child predator was on the loose. This intense, emotional atmosphere placed immense pressure on law enforcement to find answers, and fast. Yet, despite the massive search effort and the intense scrutiny, significant leads remained elusive. Investigators scoured miles of highway, reviewed traffic camera footage, and interviewed countless potential witnesses. But there were no eyewitnesses who saw an abduction. No security camera footage captured any struggle near Carlee's abandoned car. No signs of a forced entry or a violent confrontation were found. This unnerving lack of concrete evidence, the sheer absence of anything definitive, began to quietly trouble some seasoned investigators. Adding to the confusion, there was no ransom demand. No abductor reached out. The silence from the supposed kidnappers was deafening, a stark contrast to the frantic public outcry. Large rewards were quickly offered for information leading to Carlee's safe return, with contributions pouring in from concerned citizens. Her family, with the outpouring of public support, continued to appeal directly to her alleged abductors, their pleas echoing the nation's desperate hope. While the vast majority of the public, fueled by empathy and horror, wholeheartedly believed Carlee's terrifying story, the subtle inconsistencies and the baffling lack of any corroborating evidence began to raise quiet whispers of doubt among a few, more cynical observers. These nascent suspicions were largely dismissed, drowned out by the overwhelming wave of public sympathy and the urgency of the search. But the cracks in the narrative, though barely perceptible at first, were already forming, ready to shatter the illusion that had captivated a nation. The nation, held in a suffocating grip of fear and uncertainty, was about to experience a whiplash of emotions. Approximately 49 hours after she vanished from Interstate 459, Carlee Russell reappeared. On the evening of July 15, 2023, she simply walked back to her family's home, seemingly disoriented and disheveled, but to the immense relief of millions, physically unharmed. The news flashed across every screen, sparking an outpouring of joy and gratitude. The prayers had seemingly been answered. Carlee quickly provided a detailed, harrowing account of her ordeal. She claimed she had been forced into a car by a man with distinctive orange hair, taken to a remote location, and held captive in a trailer. During her supposed captivity, she even alleged that another baby, a girl, was present. After managing to escape her captors, she said she ran through the woods, eventually finding her way back home. It was a terrifying narrative, a story of survival against unimaginable odds, and initially, police treated her as a victim of a horrific abduction. Investigators immediately began searching for the alleged abductors, the orange-haired man, and the mysterious trailer, hoping to bring the perpetrators to justice. But almost immediately, cracks began to appear in her meticulously crafted story. As police delved deeper, they found themselves hitting dead end after dead end. There were no signs of forced entry at her abandoned car. Surveillance footage from the highway, despite extensive review, showed no evidence of an abduction taking place. There were no witnesses who corroborated her dramatic escape, no indication that anyone else had been involved in the incident. The most glaring inconsistency, however, revolved around the supposed toddler. Carlee's initial 911 call, the one that had kicked off this national frenzy, centered on her stopping to help a wandering child. Yet, despite a massive search of the area where she stopped and extensive questioning, there was no evidence whatsoever that a toddler had ever been present. This singular, crucial detail, the very premise of her heroic stop, was missing. While mainstream media continued to report Carlee's harrowing tale, the internet, with its relentless, unfiltered scrutiny, began to pick apart her account. Amateur sleuths and skeptical critics meticulously pointed out logical flaws, questioned her behavior, and even unearthed past social media activity that some found suspicious. The initial wave of national empathy and concern began to curdle, replaced by a growing tide of skepticism and whispers of doubt. The hero's narrative was starting to unravel, piece by painful piece, hinting at a truth far more complex and far less heroic than anyone had imagined. As Carlee Russell's dramatic abduction narrative failed to align with any tangible evidence, the focus of the investigation took a sharp, unavoidable turn. Police, initially treating her as a victim, now shifted their approach, beginning to view her as a suspect in a potential false reporting case. The pressure on Carlee and her family, who had stood by her through the harrowing search, intensified exponentially as her intricate story began to visibly unravel under relentless scrutiny. Forensic analysis of her abandoned car and the surrounding area near Interstate 459 yielded precisely nothing. There were no fingerprints belonging to an abductor, no signs of a struggle, no scuff marks on the ground, no physical evidence whatsoever to support a violent struggle or forced entry. Her cell phone records and online activity, once a source of hope for clues, were now scrutinized for contradictions. Investigators reportedly found searches on her devices that directly undermined her claims, painting a picture inconsistent with a terrified victim. The pivotal moment arrived on July 26, 2023, when Hoover Police Department Chief Nicholas Durzis held a press conference that reverberated across the nation. With a somber and direct tone, he laid out the facts, or rather, the stark lack of them. The chief meticulously detailed how their extensive investigation, including analysis of cell phone data and video evidence, strongly suggested that Carlee Russell's story was a hoax. He confirmed that there was no evidence of a toddler, no abductors, and no trailer. The image of a brave woman escaping a terrifying ordeal instantly transformed into that of a perpetrator, accused of orchestrating a massive deception. The public reaction was immediate, visceral, and furious. Millions of people who had invested their emotions, their time, and even their financial resources into finding Carlee felt a profound sense of betrayal. Social media platforms, once alight with messages of support, now erupted with outrage and condemnation. The incident ignited a heated national debate about misinformation, the integrity of missing persons reports, and the devastating consequences of crying wolf on such a grand scale. Trust, once freely given, was now in short supply. Faced with overwhelming, irrefutable evidence, Carlee Russell's carefully constructed facade finally crumbled. On July 31, 2023, her attorney released a stunning statement, confirming what police had revealed days earlier. Carlee admitted that she fabricated the entire abduction story. The toddler on the highway, the man with orange hair, the trailer, the daring escape, none of it ever happened. This public admission, while a relief to investigators seeking closure, sent a fresh wave of shock, anger, and deep disappointment across a nation that had held its breath, only to learn it had been spectacularly deceived. Carlee Russell's public confession, delivered through her attorney, marked the abrupt end of the national search and the beginning of a different kind of reckoning. While the initial fear for her safety transformed into widespread anger, the legal consequences for Carlee herself were, for many, surprisingly mild. She faced misdemeanor charges for false reporting to law enforcement, an act that had diverted immense public resources and caused widespread panic. The legal proceedings were swift, culminating in a plea and an eventual sentence that, despite the significant disruption and emotional distress she caused, largely consisted of community service and restitution. For a nation that felt so profoundly manipulated, the justice meted out seemed to barely scratch the surface of the betrayal. The most perplexing question, however, remained largely unanswered. Why? While Carlee admitted to fabricating the entire ordeal, her full motivation was never clearly articulated. Was it a desperate cry for attention, a convoluted attempt to escape personal struggles or financial difficulties, or perhaps a misguided effort to rekindle a relationship, as some theories suggested? The absence of a clear, satisfying why left millions unsatisfied, contributing to a lingering sense of unease and skepticism. The lack of a tangible motive made the deception even more unsettling, leaving the public to fill in the blanks with their own dark interpretations. The Carlee Russell hoax dealt a significant, palpable blow to public trust. It cast a long, cynical shadow over future missing persons reports and distress calls, particularly those that gained viral attention on social media. Law enforcement agencies across the country voiced their profound concern that genuine victims might now be met with initial skepticism, their pleas for help scrutinized more harshly due to the precedent set by Carlee's deception. The fear was that the public, once eager to help, might now hesitate, asking, "Is this real?" before offering aid. The case also served as a stark, glaring example of how quickly false narratives can spread and be amplified on social media, garnering immense sympathy, resources, and emotional investment, only to be later exposed as lies. It fueled critical discussions about the responsibility of online communities, the need for critical thinking, and the challenges of distinguishing truth from fiction in the age of instant information. In the aftermath, the Hoover community grappled with the betrayal. While the Ma and Pa Heritage Trail eventually saw walkers return, its inherent innocence was forever lost. The story of Carlee Russell became more than just a crime. It became a chilling case study in manipulation and the fragility of collective trust. It left a lingering, unsettling shadow over future cases, a stark reminder of how a single elaborate lie, amplified by technology and public empathy, can shatter faith, and make it immeasurably harder for genuine victims to be heard and believed. The echoes of Carlee's fabricated nightmare continue to reverberate, a haunting testament to the cost of deception.